Alright, welcome everybody to the Reglow channel, and we're going to enter into the imagination plane. If you want to come along with us by raising our imagination flag, so standing on the land with the sky above and the sea that surrounds. We welcome in the elements of fire, water, earth, and air. And we'll raise it up in this glass jar of transparency. So this is number 14 in the series of Grandmother's Velvet Garden. So as we create this, and as it is worn, and as it holds its shape and its form as a symbol, it can transport us into Grandmother's Velvet Garden through this plane especially. And so yesterday we were working on joining this mask here, stitching along this line to join the mask and the headband. Those are tiny little stitches. If you can see them in relation to my thumb. So we're gonna come over to, well, I'm gonna go get a chair. And we're back. So we're thinking of red paper, red paper. What's going on? How do you feel wearing this pipple? What's your mood today? Okay, Pipple is having a lot of thoughts that we can get to. Okay. Just want to be able to see. There we go. Okay, this is what we're working on right now. So it seems like Pipple has a lot of thoughts, especially as Grandmother's Velvet Garden is now in two pieces. Well, we're still joining here, but there's something about how far we've come and how we're going to do a double thread, and we're going to get the purple. There's something to be said for how far we've come each step of the way. Each stitch of the way. And also each moment. And so the feeling we're going to knot on the inside, but so the feeling that we've had is, and this is reflected with Pipple, is like this really gentle sensitivity that is simply noticing things around. And in engaging with that subtle noticing on this plane. I mean, it can be engaged with on any plane really, but we like to make us a special place for it, which is why we enter and exit in these rituals. But another part of me feels like I'm kind of whispering in these sessions. I know the mic's turned really far up, so you can still hear me, but I think that the tone is also very gentle, and its projection is in its presentation. Like, it's almost not even a projection. Well, it is a projection, but it's very small, and it's almost like a projection to be in wonder, or a projection to hold that space. And holding that space for ourselves especially, and other people. Who want to go there, and whose vitality is there in the realm of creativity. And so we're making our tiny stitches along the journey of the band and the mask. And checking on the inside to see that things aren't catching in ways that are distorted. And that makes me think about like the way things appear on the outside. And then the distortions that they might take and how that impacts us on the inside, and like what is really going on both sides. Is something twisted? Is something because it's inevitable that they're going to be different as the layers are different. The layers of presentation, the layers in our soul as they're connected with each other. When I say soul, I mean that like deep resonance in our beings. And then how is that presented, or how is that expressed inwardly to ourselves and externally to those around us? And then how do we receive that in others? Sometimes when we receive and when we exchange energy in relationships, you know, we can focus on one aspect of the exchange of an interaction or something, and until we realize that, oh, we also did that same thing. Like we might be irritated with it, and then we realize that we also did the same thing, and so then that dissonance can become like a guide to seeing our own integrity, like how we're integrated within ourselves. And then because the answers lie within, even if they're like guided by the outside, it still takes our own critical thinking to stand by it or not. And we're stitching purple stitches. Purple reminds me of like the realm of the imagination and the realm of elation, the realm of infinity, the realm of our vital forces. And this is what we're moving with. This is what keeps us going. This is what brings us out of bed each morning. And then back into bed every night, if that's your schedule. Maybe you have a different schedule, but these vital forces, as long as they don't get backed up, as long as we don't neglect them, so any kind of apparent insights we have as we embed our prayers into this mask, the vibration of love, anytime fear rises, we can clear the field, ground into the earth. Fill the field back up with the golden light and seal it off with an outer layer of like a membrane that is protected and whole, and feeling into what the space of grandmother's garden and the wonder of it too. Like, I remember being in one of my grandma's gardens, and when we went over in the springtime, she would show us around, and I didn't really get it. Like, I didn't understand how so much beauty could be cultivated. And it makes me feel like another part of me, when I look around, I want to find that a beauty in everything, because my grandmother also loved fake flowers and fake fruit and stuff, and she would keep that inside, and I never really understood that. But because it always felt like it just wasn't real. Even though it was real, it just wasn't. It was real something. It was real plastic, it was real rubber, but it wasn't those real living plants. And so I think that now I want to be able to find and to perceive the beauty that is in everything. Like, and beauty is kind of a word that is subjective, and so what I mean is to perceive that, to perceive the vibration of love in everything, and then I wonder, like, what is that? What does that even mean? It's not just like it's not always being in the place of awe and wonder. I think it's also being willing to be sensitive and go into these dark places. And release. Like, do something that transforms them and releases them. Because when we go into dark places within the aspects of our beings, we can find things there. Some of it needs to be released and then transformed, and some of it is just aspects of ourselves that have been suppressed due to survival, or just like situations where we had to compartmentalize, and then years later we can forget that part of ourselves, but we can also remember it. Remember that, like, vital force that can't really be reasoned. It's just something that is either flowing or it's not, or it's blocked. So in this process, every element that's flowing, every stitch is in transformation. It's weaving its way through these emotions. And I think that there can be some deep wounds. So every time I start thinking about family drama, and even any kind of relationship drama, I just need to come back to myself. And hold that space for myself. Because people might be able to observe, like, we can observe each other and we can try to rationalize each other's behavior, but that doesn't really do our experience any kind of justice, because we're the only ones who experience what we experience. So having it processed through somebody else's experience, I guess it's relative, but that doesn't mean that it's actually acknowledging and witnessing our own experiences. So may we see our lives and our existence through our own eyes. And may we learn how to listen without projecting our experiences onto other people. Okay, so we're gonna knot this off and tuck our tails. Every time I say tuck our tails, I think of being in ballet class when I was a child, and that's what the teacher would say. So our tailbones would be going towards the ground and we weren't like sticking our butts out. So this is what we have so far. Purple. Can you see me? Can you see me? Yes, you can. You can see me, kind of. Okay. So it's me and Purple here. And so what have we now? Now we have to look on the inside here. Look on the inside. And we have so we have a couple stitch lines. There's one along here, and then there's one on the outside that was the basting stitch when we were basting those layers together. So now I think it would be safe to trim along that basting stitch. Trimming, 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 trimming all the layers of the mask. Trimming, trimming, trimming all the layers of the mask. Okay. There's some interesting stretching that happened, but around this area. I want to, can you see? Around here, we have these two bits, and I want to smooth them out so they're not pointed. And also, I just want to say that all the little twists and imperfections in this mask are beloved. They're our hands working with these characters, and we're twisting them and molding them, and so it's this relationship between our characters and within and without. So I wonder, because tucking this layer in, let's say we tuck it in like a 1/4 inch all the way around. Does that mean we should trim this to like a 1/2 inch so that we could also tuck this side in a 1/4 inch all the way around? Possibly. So let's do that. Trimming here. Trimming the layers of our mask once again. And I said a 1/2 inch, but what else can you think of that's about that size? Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Ironing board. Well, twigs can be many different sizes, so I might say a twig, but that doesn't, I guess the reason I'm cutting this to be a 1/2 inch is in relation to that, how the top layer needs to tuck under a 1/4 of an inch. So in the thinnest areas, it's 1/4 of an inch. And so it's relative. It's like a half. If one's 1/4 and one's a half, then their relationship is half the size of each other. So is there something in nature? Although, how can I say that a measuring stick is not nature? Because it didn't grow those hash marks on it naturally. Somebody had to put them there. But who's to say that that person isn't also nature? All right. Well, our silks didn't really hold any of that press, but it's okay. I'm just gonna have to go along and stitch both layers at the same time. Using our purple thread once again. So it is, the thread is this seam that we've been stitching. It's like along the jawbone. It's where the mask wraps around the chin. And so in that sense, it reminds me, it's related to our voice and also what we consume. So it's like what we consume, but also it's like an entryway into that, where our consumption goes, and when it first enters into our being. And also what we speak. So it's like this exchange of what we consume and then what we release. Well, actually not really release, it's more like, well, it could be. Sometimes talking, verbal processing is a form of release. But it's also like where the energy that we release that others maybe consuming if they're listening. If we're speaking. And so and then with the purple thread, it's reminding me of the conscious future making that I heard Vanessa German talk about yesterday. And here we're tucking under the red velvet binding to finish that edge off. And that velvet is the red velvet is like the soft womb that we emerge into this life from. And now here's where we have to start paying attention to finishing both the inside and the outside edge at the same time. Tucking one side, tucking the other side. Pulling the thread through. And so we sew the finishing. Oh wow, it looks like there were parts of this that I didn't even catch initially. in that first stitch that we went around. So I'm gonna have to fix that to make sure there's a double stitch. Holding this in place. We jumped over to the top stitch, the first one that we did, to secure this part. And soon we'll go back. So I'm thinking about what I was reading yesterday. About and writing about yesterday about constantly like our existence constantly being in flow. But I only started thinking about that because I started wondering what I should talk about. So if we come back to our present reality, we can think about whatever comes to mind here and now. So tucking in these seams to be finished on the inside. It's It's silver. It's this shiny silver. And I wonder if it would be faster if I just did if I just stitched along one side and then did the other side. But something makes me feel like stitching them together is really powerful. Because it's like they're anchoring each other. The inside and the outside fold are holding each other in place. Even though there's this like green beard in between them, they're still making contact through the imagination, through the purple thread. And sometimes making contact and just acknowledging the inner and the outer is what leads us to the present. It's like the inner and the outer here. If the green beard is the present, then the imagination weaves through it, through the inner and the outer realms. Okay. Well, this is what we have so far. And so we'll be back next time to continue this journey together. So thank you, and we're going to thank you for joining us, for giving us your attention and engaging with us as we reweave the narratives of our lives. So as we lower the imagination flag, I'd like to thank and release the elements of air, earth, water, and fire. Okay, see you next time. Thank you.